I'd like to tell you a little story that I was pondering on this thing with Tantra and how to explain it to people after years and years of doing practice with this stuff, and insights started to come. I thought there's got to be some simpler ways to explain these principles to people so that they can be practiced. In all ages of humanity, cultures are different, peoples are different, so we have to explain things in metaphors that will work for people of the time. Some of the metaphors are very useful, like I told you, the metaphor of the student Svetaketu, where the teacher says Tattvamasi Svetaketu. Well, that's thousands of years old. And yet here we are today enjoying the playfulness of that way of presenting that. So symbols and metaphors can last very, very long, but sometimes we need to think of ways to do this now. I want to tell you two of them, actually. One of them is the computer. Couldn't use computer metaphor 1,000 years ago. There were no computers. So if the computer is a metaphor for me and the computer is a metaphor for you, and you're a laptop and I'm a laptop, we could make it an iPad or a cell phone or something like that, but just a simple computer will do. You know, pose the question, in the context of the metaphor of computer, who am I? Am I the pictures that's coming out the screen? Am I my Facebook page, for example? Am I my YouTube videos? What's coming out the screen of the computer that's sitting in front of me? Is that who I am? Or am I the microprocessor, the chip that's inside? Now, I'm not a computer person, so I don't know a lot about these things, but I know what I've been told by people who do understand computers. So there's a little microchip in there that's doing the thinking. Now, I know that that computer is not literally thinking the way that you and I know thinking, but in a sense, there's a chip in there that's doing the thinking. So am I the microchip, the microprocessor that's doing the thinking? Am I the data on the hard drive? Which one defines me? Am I the software that's on my hard drive that I use? Am I the operating system? One time I was telling this to some people, and a geek, an IT person, said, what about, you forgot about the motherboard? So apparently inside of a computer there's a card or a board in there that has, I think, what they call machine language. And it's a very subtlest aspect of computer programming that tells the thing that it's a computer. Otherwise, it's just a little pile of silicone or something like that. So there's machine language that's on a thing. Isn't it fun to note that it's on a thing called a motherboard, which is a little bit like the Shakti? It's just kind of playful to think about that. Is that who I am in the computer metaphor? And the answer is no, I am none of those things. Get ready for this. Who am I in the computer metaphor? I am the electricity. I am the pure consciousness. The hard drive will not work without electricity. The motherboard and the machine language will not work without electricity. Nothing comes off the hard drive and goes into the microprocessor without electricity. The microprocessor, the chip, will not work without electricity. No picture comes on the screen without electricity. When I look at the screen and I see pretty pictures of a little movie going on there, what I'm actually looking at is the visual form of electricity. It's all electricity. This is the symbol of Shakti. There's only one reality. It's called Shiva. That's the pure potential that if we carry the metaphor a little farther, you go out into the desert or into a mountain and you find sand. You find sand that they grind up and somehow turn into silicone, and they turn into silicone chips. And so what is it we're using on our computers? Predominantly, tell us the experts, it's sand. It's silicone sand. And so that's the pure potential. But because of the pure potential operating outward with energy, energy of consciousness called Shakti, we end up having a computer that does all these wonderful things for us. And like human beings that operate, sometimes they can be rather irritating. And so in the computer metaphor, who am I? I am the electricity, and the electricity is a symbol of pure consciousness. Atman or Purusha are other words for it. In the yoga, that's called Purusha. It's the consciousness of Purusha. In the Vedanta piece, it's called Atman, the individual capital S soul, capital S self. In Tantra, it's called Shakti.